Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the new look Q&A. Same old presenters, but a flashy new pink design ahead of the new season. My name is Az. If this is the first time joining us, I am here with the lovely Sam Bonfield to discuss all of your, normally your kind of decisions and dilemmas ahead of the next game week. We've still got a few weeks till game week 1, Sam, but there's lots of questions to answer, surely.
I am so happy to be back, Az.
Woo!
I have missed seeing your handsome face every week. What is going on? It's I suspect we might get a lot of, should I go with this one? Should I start with this one? What does he think of my team? Like, we're here for all of those questions today. So yeah, bring it on. Here we go.
I know. I'm really looking forward to it, because obviously I got back into the black box a few days ago with Mark. The first one, kind of like getting into a nice pair of comfy shoes again, you know, just kind of sat down and everything, you know, just took me back to last year, which was nice. But it's a very different season this year. Obviously, we touched on some of the new changes that are coming out. You've obviously been doing that with FPL Family, and you know, lots of from all the pro pundits on Scout talking about all the different changes. Yeah, let's start with that. Let's get your questions in, and we'll answer those. But yeah, what's your take on the new rules and new changes and all the developments on FPL this year?
I think it's really good, right? Like, for me, I love FPL. Like, I think that's very clear. Like, I spend my whole life
Really?
looking at FPL, talking about FPL.
Be worrying if you didn't.
Thinking about it. I know, right? But I think that there were certain parts of the game which felt like they were ready for a bit of a shake-up and a bit of a change. And I like the fact that the FPL have not been scared to do that. And they've just gone, right, we're going to make some changes. We're going to change the way the bonus point system works. I'm absolutely here for the free transfers, because for me, every year, the way that I play the game, there's always weeks where I'm like, I don't really want to change it. Like, I end up like doing some ridiculous, let's swap a 4.0 defender just because I don't want to be burning a transfer. So now, knowing I can save them up and not have them disappear when I play a chip, like, I'm so here for that.
Do you think you'll use 5 transfers? Do you think there'll ever be a point this season in which you save up 5 transfers and use them?
I don't think it will be as hard as everyone thinks. I've heard a lot of people... Sorry, I got too hot. I said to you this was going to happen, didn't I? I was like, I start with my head down and I'm going to get hot. I've already got hot.
It didn't take long.
It did, no.
I thought you were going to get to about halfway through the stream and
3 minutes.
And then kind of
it's taken 3 minutes
recalibrate.
and I'm like, no, it's too much. I think it will be easier than you think it's going to be. Like, I've listened to a lot of people say, I can't ever see you'll get to 5. So hear me out on this, because I think, let's just start with game week 1 because it's easier. So you go game week 1. Most people always try and roll a transfer for game week 2 anyway, because obviously you've been able to set up your team anyway. So you're on 1 free transfer. Then you head into game week 3 and say, you know, you don't need a transfer then as well. Or you decide,
Have you seen my starts the last few years, Sam? I'm going to be I'll be -8 by game week 3.
Okay, but in your case, you decide, it's all gone terribly, I'm wildcarding. So you come back out of the wildcard, you've still got your free transfer. And I think this is the thing, is that if you can get to game week 4 and wildcard, you can have 2 free transfers in the bank. Yeah. And then you come out of it, and then you've only got another... Then you're not going to wildcard... You know, you've just wildcarded, so you're not going to use a transfer the week after, hopefully. So then you're at least at 3. Like, I think it will be easier than people think around a chip to manage not using the transfers. And particularly around a wildcard, if you decide to wildcard and bench boost back to back, which is what, let's be honest, most of us like to do, then I can see you having multiple transfers, because you wildcard, you set up your team ready for your bench boost. If you've got 2 transfers coming in off the back of that, by the time you've wildcarded and bench boost, then you're loving your life without, you know, using transfers, and before you know it, you can change the team and take all the money off the bench. Like, I genuinely think it will be easier than people think.
It's going to be a very nice position to be in if you do manage to get to like 3 or 4 transfers, because, you know, we become accustomed to using 1, 2 max. If you've got 3 or 4 and you're just using 1, and you can keep that 3 or 4 until you need it, and like you say, play a chip, you don't even have to worry about it, and it comes a bit later on. I think people that get off to a good start and are able to bank 2 or 3 weeks of transfers are going to be really, really hard to top. That's my only real concern with it, is that I think a good start now is going to be even more key. And I've never had a good start at FPL because I always mess up my initial team selection. So really going to need to get that right. And actually, I think, playing safer at the start of the season, that might be the play, because if you end up too far behind, like I've been like 3-4 million after game week 5 or 6 the last few years. I don't think I can have that again, because it's going to be way too hard to catch people up. But
yeah, I do think that -4s might become a bit of a killer. Because, last season, you take it, most weeks, if you took a -4 in a week where loads of people weren't, it might cost you a little bit of rank, but it wasn't costing you loads. And often a -4 didn't really cost you anything in rank. In fact, it was not taking a -4 that would gain you some rank. Whereas I think this time around, with the rolling of transfers that people and the new strategies that the managers that have played the game for a long time will deploy, I can see taking a -4 actually being detrimental to your
absolutely.
rank.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Hits are going to be a real luxury, I think, this season, because if you're taking a -4 and you've got people making 4 transfers for free, you're going to find it really hard to keep up. But then again, maybe you have to take hits, because if people are able to change their teams so much, and you might need to take a hit just to keep up with people who've got each other. I don't know, it's really interesting. It changes strategies massively. So yeah.
And what about the mystery chip? What do you make of that?
I don't love it. I don't love the idea of it, not going to lie. I don't know the rationale of why it's mystery.
It's fun.
Is it that it's fun? Is it that they don't really know what they're doing with the chip yet? Is there a plan for it? Do you? You probably know.
I don't know. I mean, you can
keep
see
it under wraps.
You can see from... So I obviously knew the mystery chip was coming because they asked me for a quote about it. So they literally sent me what it said in that article. They said, this is a mystery chip. This is what we're going to tell you. What do you think? And I honestly was like...
Are you allowed to speculate on what it is then? Or
well, I did in that launch article. So I mean, I think, and the more I think about it, the more I think it's quite genius, because there's so many things it could be that it kind of makes for a lot of fun speculating about it. Like, so could it be a limitless chip? We haven't got that. I think a lot of us were thinking that maybe the free hit might be limitless this year. I think, in my head, that was one of the... When they said, we're going to make big changes, that was one of the things that I thought might happen. I thought we might see the free hit go limitless. That didn't happen, so maybe we get a limitless chip on its own. I've said on multiple streams so far that I'd love the all-out attack chip back, because we all no longer want to go big at the back, and particularly with the changes in the bonus point system, that's definitely not going to be a thing.
Oh my god! If the mystery chip is bringing back all-out attack,
please, that's what I want.
You're the only one wanting that.
I know, but I want that. I want that so badly.
Oh god, no.
And the other things that there's other things, isn't there? Like, I honestly wonder whether what we've seen in challenge so far might be them trialing stuff that could be the mystery chip. So they're like, you get a point for every time they take a shot on target. We had that, didn't we, as one of the challenge rounds last season? Like, could it be something like that? Could we see something that's been trialed in challenge rolled into the game?
That's my take on it. I think they want to maybe use challenge or collect a bit more, I don't know, data about the way people are playing or whatever before they commit to what that chip is. I mean, it is interesting. It'd be interesting to know when it's available. Is it just going to be available from January onwards, or is there a specific game week or time you got to play it, or kind of what they're doing with it? Because it could massively affect strategies. And I was talking to Mark about it the other day, like in terms of like long-term planning and algorithms and all that stuff. If you suddenly get a chip dropped in that you've got to play pretty quickly, maybe that's quite fun, because that means you can't spend all your time on a spreadsheet like looking up the best routes to play it. I don't know, it's interesting.
Yeah, it's a good point, really. I mean, I think the wording of it will be available to be used from January.
Okay.
Which would suggest to me that it could be used from January to the end of the season. Whereas I would have expected, if it was going to be a 1 week, everyone has to do it, that it would be in January or
I see what you mean.
February.
Available in January. Yeah, you're right. Actually, it probably is going to be something that can be played. But yeah,
and also I also think that given that they want to encourage people to play the game, telling you have to do it in 1 week, is maybe more limiting for. I mean, you and I, that's fine, but it's maybe more limiting for people that aren't like completely addicted to this game.
True, and I guess it's giving someone something to look forward to a bit later on, because everyone's going to have this chip back. Whereas if they gave it to us at the start of the season, we'd get to January and everyone would have used it again, or a lot of people would have used it. Yeah, it's interesting. Let's take some comments from the chat, because we've had quite a few people mentioning the pink the radiant pink.
Do we like it?
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Jack Flash says this now looks like an online speed dating thing. I kind of I'm expecting them to be hearts, even though they are obviously question marks. If you're listening on podcast, there's new graphics for Scout. We've got this kind of like dynamic pink background that people are seeing. Big Tip says, why the Barbie pink? Yeah, you were basically in charge of deciding what colour we had. We said this was the last one left. We were like bottom of the barrel, were we?
No, it wasn't that. We'd kind of like, we were going through them, and I was sitting down with Tom, who is running the channel for us this year, and we were discussing it with Harry and Focal, and we were like, right, we're going to have dynamic backgrounds, it's going to have the title of the thing moving. And then I was like, I'm a woman, right? So I think about things in a very different way, and I'm like, right, we need to sort out the colours, and the boys all like, what's she talking about? Like, so I was like, right, burning questions. It needs to be red or orange. Like, it's got to be burning, right? And then we were going through all the others, and then Tom went, well, what about the Q&A? And I was like, pink. He was like, all right. So there we are.
I love that I did not even get remotely consulted on the colour for Q&A this time out, I will say. I mean, Black Box is also pink this year, so the kind of two go together. Maybe we could map them. So like next year when Black Box changes colour, maybe the Q&A changes and we keep it consistent. But yeah, let us know what you think of the
maybe
pink.
families should go pink too.
Yeah, everyone get yellow. Yellow's already got pink on her channel anyway, so yeah, it's fine. JK Guna says, came for FPL, start with Jack Black and Amber Heard speed dating. I mean, I think we're both a bit insulted by that, aren't we? I mean, to be fair, Amber Heard is gorgeous, but she's debatable of character. I've watched that documentary on Netflix. It's a weird documentary. Jack Black, you could get stuffed, JK Guna. He does not look like a well man at the moment, Jack Black. He was all right looking in what was that like Christmas film, The Holiday? Seen that one?
Oh yeah, I love The Holiday.
He's in that, and he's with like, is it?
It's Cameron Diaz and Kate Winslet.
Kate Winslet, yeah.
Yeah, and I often, if people are going to say I look like anyone, that's often what I get. Kate Winslet.
Kate Winslet, really?
Yeah. I don't know, and I've never understood it because I'm like, okay.
I kind of see it actually. Yeah, I kind of get that. JR says, "Look how low that ID number is." I guess that's in relation to yours. You were pretty close to a 3-digit, but got the 4.
Yeah,
mine was
I had a 3-digit one year. I think Lee's pretty close as well. I think he's about 5k, something 5.
5k, yeah, nice. I obviously famously had 69 as my ID when I had my best ever season. You should
always have 69.
I know, and now look at me, 45k. Embarrassing. Talking about 69s with our pink background is a.
Were you already drunk by the time you got 45k?
No, I literally sat refreshing, literally pressing F5 the whole time, and then got called into a meeting at 2:00.
Oh no!
And I think the game launched at like 25 past. So I was literally just coming out of the meeting, and then obviously had the. Yeah, it's all right. 45k's all right. When it's in the hundreds, that's season over before you even even started.
Might as well give up now. Don't bother playing.
Attaboy says, as room is updated, there's something under the pictures. No, I think things are the same. The only difference is Simicast is now on the wall. Your favourite player.
Whoop whoop whoop.
See little Simicast up there for the Bell bench boost.
Love
the change to the bench boost, by the way, with all the chips at the top of the page. Not going to be making that mistake again.
Just Beautiful. For you, Az, that one.
Beautiful.
Let's have a bet. Who do you think is going to be on the wall this year? If you were going to
stop
punt
betting
on it
me
right now.
with things.
No, we're not actually putting a bet on it. But just like, what do we think it would be? Like now, who's the player you think is going to be on the wall this time next year?
Do you know who I've got in my team at the moment? Who I'm quite looking forward to bringing off the bench every now and then.
Go on.
Morgan Rogers. At 5 million.
Oh, I like Morgan Rogers.
Rogers at 5 million.
Off to a flyer, by the way, in pre-season.
Yeah, he was brilliant at the end of last season as well.
Yeah, but he's looked really good in pre-season so far.
Could be the new Palmer. You never know.
Could be the new Palmer.
So I'm going to say Morgan Rogers as my 5 million midfielder who I miss. Basically, it happened exactly like with Garnacho last year. I'll miss all his points, playing for the games where he blanks, sell him before a brace.
Inevitable.
And then he won't be on the wall. Neema's in the chat. Neema says he'll bring some hot pink shorts to me next time he sees me. That'd be nice. You can wear your Pikachu onesie, Neema. I'll wear the shorts.
Maybe we'll both wear pink to Fest.
That's a good idea. Yeah, I've got really pushing the pink thing this season. FPL Focal, is that the real FPL Focal? There's no tick. I'm going to say it is. Sure. I recognise buys Vardy for Bournemouth at home game at 38 and he hauls before retiring. Yeah, that'd be a fun
That'd be fun. That'd be a very you thing to do as well.
Right, let's take some questions that actually relate to FPL. Then I'm gonna.
What do you mean we're not going to talk about Barbie Pink and 69
Barbie Pink for the whole stream? To be fair, it's a long time to go till the season starts. So if we're doing these every week, we're gonna have to scrape the barrel, I think, a bit with some of our conversations. I saw one about Arsenal defenders. Luke says, "Is an Arsenal defender essential?"
I think so.
Do you? I don't.
Ooh,
there you
right.
go.
Hang on. How far in are we? About
First
15
question,
minutes in
we
that
disagree.
we disagree. I do think so. I think, but maybe that's because. So part of me thinks it's because I was bitten a little bit by only having one Arsenal defender for so long last season. Like I had obviously I had Saliba the whole time, and then there was that chunk towards the back end of last season where everyone else felt like they doubled up, whether it be with Raya or with Gabriel and Saliba or with Ben White or with whoever it was. It felt like everyone had the double up, and so every time Saliba kept a clean sheet, it gave me a red arrow, and I was like, this is a nightmare.
Yeah.
And I think I look at the Arsenal defence this time around, and I don't see them being any less good. That's a terrible way of saying it. It's terrible English, but you know what I mean.
Worse.
I don't see them. Yeah, that's better. I don't see them being any worse than they were last season, and so I look at it and I go, well, I fear that at some point I'm going to be like, oh my God, I need an Arsenal defender. And rather than trying to scramble around, trying to find 6 million at that point, I'd rather just start with one. Now, it might be, if we see what we did at the beginning of last season, that Timber starts. And if Timber starts, then obviously we can save 0.5 and we can go for a 5.5 million defender. I mean, he only stopped starting last time around because he got injured and then was out for the season. So, but I do think that having an Arsenal defender is really important.
They're signing a new left back as well, aren't they? The one from Italy. I'm sure Gianni knows a bit more about him than I do.
Of course.
But yeah, I mean, there is the thing is, I don't think Ben White is going to justify 6.5.
No, nor do I.
Million.
But Saliba at 6, I think is.
But surely
good.
you'd go Gabriel, right? Because he's got the shots. He takes more shots. They're getting rewarded in the BPS for shots now. He wins a lot of fouls because he's always attacking things in the penalty area and getting, I don't know, or outside the penalty area and getting barged and things. When the other team's attacking. So
I love Saliba.
I don't think. I think it's now. If it's between Saliba and Gabriel, I think Gabriel is the clear winner. And then the left back spot could be anyone. So I think it's Gabriel or no one. But you're still, you think is Saliba in your draft?
At the minute, yeah. Okay. At the minute.
Okay.
I mean, I've got a load of time to change my mind and go for a different Arsenal defender, but I'm definitely having one.
Yeah, I mean, what are you making of this? Like the changes to the BPS with defenders, obviously penalised quite heavily now when they concede goals. Very unlikely they're going to get attacking return. Going to get BPS, unless they get probably a couple of attacking returns because it's kind of mitigated by the change to conceding goals. Does that put you off like the premium defenders at all?
No, it doesn't put me off them. It puts me off having loads of them. So my current team has Saliba and then 4.5 defenders because I think I'd rather spend the money in attack because they're the ones that are more likely to pick up their attacking returns. I mean, weirdly, Konza was one of the most foul players in the game last year.
I couldn't believe that.
Yeah. So I keep reeling off that stat everywhere I go. So he's in there because if he's going to pick up fouls. Now, he did play out on the wing, didn't he, for a little bit as well last time around. So maybe that's part of the reason why he was getting fouled a lot when he was more out in that position. I don't know. Without looking at the heat maps and the foul positions for those matches.
He's good value at 4.5.
He is good value. And the Aston Villa fixtures are nice. And so I think for me, I won't be heavily investing in like a lot of the premium defenders. Like I don't see the value in going for Saliba, Vardio and Trent, for example, because whilst you might get some attacking returns out of them, you're right in what you say about the bonus points. If they concede, then it's more and more unlikely that they're going to get any recognition in the BAPs. However, I think having one is good, but I do want to move that budget into the midfield instead.
Yeah. We've got 250 people watching, 265 watching live, which is great. Great to see people are getting back into FPL mode. Unfortunately, he's not here. It's just me.
No, it's
but
just us.
Just
Sadly.
us.
You could have seen Andy last night. Go back and watch the Scoutcast from last night after this one.
Good, he's coming back. Few other, well, get your questions in. We got loads. Obviously, here's one for you. NW Soccer. We've mentioned Concert already. Burn. He's very popular. I think he's one of the most owned players in the game at the moment. And the love of your life, Mickey van der Ven. You had to choose out of those three. Who are you going for? Is van der Ven 4-5 again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this a game of Snog, Marry, Avoid, or is this?
We could do both. Yeah, we can do Snog, Marry, Avoid, and we can do FPL team picks.
I've got Van der Ven and Konza in my current draft. I think there's good value in both of those. I also really like Burn, but my other two are Leif Davis and I'm gonna have to check. Gosh, I've only done this draft 1,000 times. At the moment it's Gahey, but it could easily be Burn. I think all three of them offer really nice value. I think in terms of attacking threat, obviously Van der Ven is probably the least likely of them all. Like, his expected goal involvement last season was under 1, so less likely to get goals probably and assist than Konza and Burn. Konza's a bit more of a threat from set pieces. Burn, well, we know we've seen that from Burn last season. I think Newcastle will be better as well this season without the European football distraction.
I think he definitely
going on.
plays with Livramento and Hall.
Well, that is the problem, isn't it? Because I'm not convinced he does. And that's why, at the moment, I have got a Newcastle player. It's Isak. And I haven't got any of the defenders yet because I'm not entirely sure what that back line actually looks like. And so I think pre-season and the minutes tracker that Neil creates for us over on Scout is going to be increasingly important this season, because you're going to need to understand who's starting in pre-season for Newcastle. But we saw a lot of rotation there, partly because of the injuries, of course. But it is a bit of a risk to go with Burn, whereas with the other two, you know that they're guaranteed to start.
Yeah. So who are you picking out of those three? You're saying Konza?
Well,
Sounds like you're going for Konza.
I've got Van der Ven and Konza currently, but if I had to just pick one of them...
You've got Van der Ven. Don't know why I'm surprised.
But if I had to just pick one of them, I'd go for Konza.
Okay, yeah, I think I agree with that. Adam Stevo, I haven't seen this, but João Pedro replacement, rumours of a broken rib. Is that?
He's not going... Yeah, no, that's true. He's not going...
That.
He's pulled out of the Japanese pre-season tour that you're going on. He's not travelling, and they hadn't given a reason at the beginning, but there's a lot of rumour that he's actually broken his ribs.
Great.
Now,
well, he's absolutely key to my entire team structure. So
and mine. He's absolutely vital to mine, and I saw it this morning. In fact, I was about to record a team reveal for Scout Channel with Tom as it popped up, and I was like, well, let's talk about my team. But actually, it would be quite a big hit on my team. I mean, it's not the end of the world because Muniz is just that 0.5 more. So I just take 0.5 out of one of my 4.5 defenders and go for 4.0 there, and then have Muniz instead.
Oh my God, I'm going to end up starting with Danny Welbeck. Because Ferguson's injured. I think he's back in training. He might be fit. I mean, Ferguson's 5'5" as well. So if Ferguson does have a pre-season, I mean, on the site he's listed as coming back in early October. But I have seen some pictures of him. But yeah, if Pedro and Ferguson are both unfit, and we've only got Danny Welbeck to lead the line, he's 5'5" as well. Maybe he's the play. There's Armstrong as well, isn't there, of Southampton? He's got penalties and things. He looks decent.
Yeah, he has. Or Vardy parties, if you're interested in a Vardy party. He's going to come off the bench, isn't he? So he will get some returns, but for old time's sake, you could go down that line. But I mean, João Pedro was kind of quite a key player in my draft, It is a frustration because I was hoping to, see some good minutes from him over pre-season, see him being integral to the way that Brighton play, and know that I could have him in my team. Great enabler. Doesn't have to play every week necessarily because, I've got the bench to cover that. But yeah, he felt important to me, and it would be a big problem if that's why he's out.
We have a question from Michael Scott. Other than Pedro, are there any other forwards around 5'5" or 5'5" or under worth considering? I mean, I'm having a quick look in panic now at this news. There's obviously Armstrong and Welbeck that we mentioned, if Welbeck is the only starting forward for Brighton. There's Delap, isn't there, at Ipswich. There's Vardy at Leicester. So you've got the promoted strikers all at 5'5". Who else? There's Wood, but he's 6, isn't he? He's a bit more.
Muniz
is 6. Muniz is a good pick, I think, at 6 million.
Yeah, good pick.
I don't have 0.5 though.
I can get 0.5 because I can just go for a 4.0 defender. So it's not hard for me to get 0.5 with my team the way that it is at the moment. But I'd just rather not.
Calvert-Lewin, says Pete.
Calvert-Lewin?
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be going there.
Remember last season you went all in on the Calvert-Lewin love, didn't you?
Well, I didn't actually buy him. Didn't I talk him up and then he scored and I was like, I'm going to buy him, then he did nothing for like about 8 weeks, something like that. Or he didn't play, but he got dropped.
And he's 6 as well, and I think I'd rather have Muniz if I was going to
I think Muniz at 6 is a good one.
Yeah, I do.
Pranav, good comment here. Why are people avoiding Son? He always steps up in importantly big matches. Haven't seen any Sons, I don't think, in anyone's team.
No, I don't think people are avoiding Son. I just think people are struggling with budget. Like, I think that's the problem. Like, I'm looking at, like, when you look at ownership, like, I'm just looking on my phone at the minute at the ownership. I've clicked on the wrong button. When you look at ownership figures, Son's at 8.8. I can't remember a time this close to launch where I've looked at Son and seen him at 8.8 ownership. Like, that just doesn't happen. Like, he's normally owned by double digits relatively fast as the game goes live, because generally what people do is they go, I'm going to go for the players that I know and trust and that have good records in the league and all of that jazz. And Son obviously historically would come into that bracket. So I don't know, like I'm looking at the ownership numbers, and the only one that I'm really seeing in the midfielders that's highly owned at the moment is Palmer. He's very highly owned, but that's probably why people are looking at the likes of Salah and Palmer and probably thinking it's quite tough to spend 10 million on Son. It's finding that budget, and you have to make compromises. And I've got Brennan Johnson currently in my team because I can't get to Son, and he's only owned by 1.9% of the game. And then even when you look at Maddison, he's at 6.1. So people are, I think, just looking elsewhere for those value picks in that kind of 6.5, 7.5 bracket, because that's going to enable you to have those bigger players as well with the bigger price tags.
It's very interesting, isn't it? I mean, you talk about ownership. I mean, Ollie Watkins is like 56% owned. So's Isak. So's Palmer. So they're like the three, 8.5 to 11-ish million players who are really highly owned. Salah and Haaland are both 30%. So 1 in 3 have them. And then obviously some people are going with one. Some people are going with both. But then obviously having to make quite a lot of sacrifices elsewhere. Do you want to have a guess on Saka's ownership?
I bet that's quite low.
Higher than I thought.
10?
No, much higher than that. 27.
Oh, really?
27.
That's a lot higher than I thought that would be.
Yeah, it's higher than I thought as well.
So that's interesting that so many more have gone for Saka over Son.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought so.
That is interesting.
I guess the fans of England, and Saka's got a big following, isn't he? Because it's obviously such a.
But in some ways, that would make me more want to go for Son, because Saka's still going to have a couple of weeks holidays, not going to LA with Arsenal on that tour, because he's got to have a break after the Euros, whereas Son's been back in training with Spurs for a couple of weeks.
Foden, want to have a guess on his ownership?
I reckon his will be high, because people will go, if I can't have Haaland, I'll go for Foden instead. So, like, I reckon, what did we say Haaland was at, like 30%? I reckon Foden's about the same.
Yeah, 32%. Yeah. But, I mean, I'm just mentioning these because, yes, of all the premiums, they've all got in and around 30+% ownership. And then you've got Son right down at 8%.
8.
So, yeah, he is the left fielder. I think, like you say, would I put him above? I've got Haaland and Palmer at the moment. They're like my two pricey players. Can't afford 3 when you've got Haaland. So you've got to stick with Haaland and one other. What are you doing at the moment? I mean, how many have you got? Have you got Haaland? We had a question. Let me get that up. We had a question about Haaland. You starting with him?
I've got Haaland and Salah at the moment.
You've got okay. You've gone for a Haaland and Salah double up. Oh, you really need João Pedro.
I've got Salah and Haaland and Saliba. They're my 3 expensive assets. Bless you.
Thank you.
And then my with a plan that after game week 2, so heading into game week 3, when I've got more information, because I think that there will be some good value picks at Liverpool. But at the moment, obviously Luis Diaz and Darwin have gone long in Copa America and Gakpo's gone long in the Euros, so they're not back in training yet. I think one of them will show themselves and will be able to be selected instead of Salah. I also think that come game week 3, I'll be able to move from Haaland to Foden. I'm just a little bit worried about how far Foden went in the Euros, and the fact that Haaland's had a summer off, and so I want to be able to captain Haaland against Ipswich in game week 2, but then after that I'm quite happy to sell both Haaland and Salah and downgrade them both, because I don't see them as downgrades to go for someone else within their team, and it'll probably be that Haaland becomes Foden and then I look to replace Salah with another Liverpool player, depending upon which one it is, whether it's Darwin, whether it's Gakpo, whether it's Diaz, however it is. Like I'll look to do that in and around game week 3 or 4. And then that will allow me to free up like a massive chunk of budget that can be spread around the rest of the team. But also if I decide that actually, no, I do want to keep one of them, like Haaland started banging and I want to keep him, then I'll just do the downgrade on Salah and use some of that money elsewhere. But with the two of them having the summer off, not going to an international competition, I just feel like I want to own both of them for the opening weeks of the season.
Yeah, I think if this was a season without the Euros and everything was even, I think I'd be going Foden. I'd be going Foden over Haaland all day, every day, and saving that money. But yeah, the fact Haaland's had that injury, he's now had a whole summer off,
totally
come back into that City side. I mean, it does historically take City a little bit of time to get going, but Haaland's not really struggled, has he? He got 2 goals against West Ham when he first joined, 2 goals again against Burnley.
Braced against Chelsea last season at Stamford Bridge as well. And that's their opening game, and then it's Ipswich. So,
I think there's going to be a lot of worried people going into Ipswich at home. But then equally they'll have Salah. So I don't know. It's interesting. I think it's the thing I'm most looking forward to this season is playing around with those premiums and moving them around and getting it totally wrong and selling Palmer before a hat trick for Saka who doesn't play. You know, that's what it's about, isn't it? That's what we've wanted for years. It's
going to be a lot more of that. And a lot more fun and a lot less, you say people, there's going to be a lot of worried people, but last season Haaland was owned by 90% of the game at the beginning. If you didn't have him, it was going to kill you if he did anything. Whereas this season, if he's 30% ownership, yes, it's going to hurt your rank, but it's not going to ruin your whole season.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference, is that, nobody at this point, Palmer maybe is the only exception, and even at 50%, it's not going to kill your rank. It just will be hurtful, but it's not going to be an absolute disaster. I think for me that's the key. It's just knowing you've got the flexibility to move around, and then being able to play about with the premiums and the way that you're investing. It feels like the right way to go.
Good question from Nicholas Golden. Thoughts on the impact of the new Champions League schedule? A lot more games this year. That's something I haven't even really thought of. Obviously, the format of that's changed. I still don't really have my head around exactly who's playing who and what that's going to look like. But, I think I'm sort of looking forward to it. I don't really know. I understand the group stage. I got my head around that.
Yeah.
Top 2 go through, 3rd goes into Europa, 4th is out. That's simple. It looks a lot more complicated than that now. There are going to be more games, though. We are going to see more rotation. And I think we are going to need bigger squads.
And games on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
So, we have then more teams playing Thursday, Sunday. Because obviously we'll have had that with the Conference and the Europa League teams as well. I think it will make a difference. Like, I do think it will have an impact. And that's why I think, teams like Newcastle could actually potentially be the ones to take a little look at, because they're not going to have that busy, hectic schedule. In the same way that, at the beginning of last season, if you remember, Spurs were on a lovely run right up until that game against Chelsea in game week 9, where it all just fell apart and everyone got injured or suspended. But up until that moment, there was a lovely run for Spurs there. And we could heavily invest because we knew that they were just playing once a week. There was nothing else for them to think about, particularly when they went out the League Cup super early as well. It was like, right, okay, well, this is it now. It's just on the league. And this season, I think more so than ever, the Premier League sides are going to need to use their squads in the Premier League and in the Champions League because of the way that it's set up. The smaller squads will struggle. I mean, actually, the teams that have got European football this year generally have got quite decent squads, actually, because Aston Villa competed in Europe last season as well. They obviously have to up their game in the Champions League, but nonetheless.
Big loss of Douglas Luiz.
Huge, yeah, and it'd be interesting to see who takes over penalties for them now without him being there, because obviously he was the one that was taking them last time around.
If Watkins has got him, it puts me off him. bloody rubbish, Benoist.
Well, we'll have to see, won't we, what happens there. But I think, I do think that the Champions League football will have an impact, and it's something that we won't see straight away because obviously, we get a good month or so. And actually, maybe it's something we don't need to worry about yet, because by the time we do need to worry about it, we'll either have racked up our free transfers or we'll have a wild card that will be about ready to play anyway.
Yeah. And then look at the teams who aren't involved in the Champions League, because we've always said that Europa League is almost more taxing in a way, like playing on that Thursday, but we're going to see obviously more
They're
games.
Going to play there.
Going to be less, yeah. The squads are definitely going to have to be used right across. So yeah, I think now there's not so much. I'm not really worried about the Champions League so much, because I thought, okay, well they've got if they've got Tuesday till Saturday or Tuesday till Sunday to recover, they're probably going to be fine.
Yeah.
Whereas now, if that's going later in the week and there's going to be more games, I think that suddenly has a more of an impact. So yeah, something to bear in mind. A few comments about Brennan Johnson. Khalid says thoughts on Brennan Johnson. Yella's in the chat. She just says Brennan Johnson ! And I saw another one about Johnson as well. What's your thoughts on old Brennan?
Yeah, I've got him in my team. And I'll be keeping him. I think he's one of the players that I'm close to locking, actually, because I can't see how I'm going to be able to make Son work.
Lock emoji.
Yeah, I can't see how I'm going to be able to make Son work. And I do like the Spurs fixtures. They're mixed to start the season, but I like them from an attacking perspective. And when you look at the underlying numbers from last season, he was second in the Spurs team for expected goal involvement, 15.11 it was. So behind Son, but still the rest of the Spurs players, decent. Started 26 games last season. I think that will go up this season as well, because I suspect him to start most matches ahead of Kulusevski on the right-hand side. And if we've got a fully fit starting attack, I think he'll be a really, really good option down that side with Porro. They link up so nicely. So for me, I think Brennan Johnson at 6.5 is the best route into the Spurs attack. I think he'll be a really good asset. And I'm really surprised that he's only owned by 1.9% of the game at the moment. Like, it really shocks me that more people haven't gone for him. I wonder if that's because they've gone for somebody like a Rodgers, or just decided to go down like Hutchinson, like the 5.5s, and try and then increase one of the other midfielders up a little bit higher, potentially. Maybe go for a Bowen or an Anthony Gordon instead, which I would understand. But I do think that Brennan Johnson, I think this could be a really good season for him.
17 attacking returns last season. I mean, I've got Maddison in my draft at the moment. Of course, I have.
You?
But is he worth the extra 1 million on Johnson?
He isn't for me. In my mind, he isn't. I mean, the one thing I will say about Maddison is he does win a lot of fouls. So he won 74 fouls last year. So that's going to bode well in the bonus point system. So any level of attacking return is going to do him well. Average 4.4 points per start, Maddison, last season as well. So of the Spurs assets, it was only Richarlison and Son that earned more points per start than he did last time out. Not so many shots on target though. I think he was down at 23, so less of those from him. But still a decent-ish number, and there's nothing he's doing that's going to massively hurt him in terms of the bonus point. The new bonus point system.
He's got a point to prove as well, isn't he? I mean, it was unthinkable, wasn't it? About halfway through the season, it's unthinkable that Maddison wouldn't even be going to Germany for the Euros. The drop-off he had after the injury was massive.
Started so well. The beginning of last season, I was like, this guy is everything we needed. And we lost Harry, and I felt like James Maddison was a bit of a blessing. Like, him coming in at that point and then taking the number 10, I was like, I'm so here for this. I'm so here for you coming in and being like, I'll take that number. I'll be your kind of new favourite. And up until the injury, and I mean, game week 11, it's like scarred on my memory, because it was such a painful night watching that. And I was there watching Van der Ven and Maddison both pick up injuries, and Romero when Udogie gets sent off. It was like, oh my God, this is killing us. This is going to kill us, because we were fully up there at that point. And then Van der Ven came back from injury and did Van der Ven things again. Like, it didn't affect him in terms of pace and defence. All of that stuff was positive. But Maddison came back from injury like a totally different player. He just didn't have the same level of fight about him. He was so off it. He didn't look match fit. And then towards the very last few matches of the season, we started to just see some old style Maddison stuff coming back in, but not enough to get him into the Euros squad for the summer. And actually, there were a few matches at the Euros I was watching thinking James Maddison would make a difference here in this game. And I think you're right. I think he will have a point to prove. My issue is, can he stay fit for another season? Because if this happens again and he loses fitness and then we have this taking the time to build back up again, that's really difficult to keep dealing with. I mean, Kulusevski, I thought, actually did a fantastic job when he filled in for Maddison in the 10. But nonetheless, you'd want Maddison there. I can't see anything at the moment from Maddison. I mean, I watched the pre-season match that they played on Wednesday evening. It was one of those where he played one team in the first half and then changed everybody. But Johnson was the one that really, for me, it was a lovely ball from Maddison to Johnson, actually, for Johnson's goal. It was a lovely ball, but Johnson was the one that stood out for me during that half. And then it was Archie Gray that stood out for me in the second half.
Yeah,
it was
a lot
fantastic.
of money paid for him.
A lot of money paid for him, and I think he's going to get regular starts. So if you are looking for like a cheap option, because I don't think anyone's going to use their 3 Spurs picks this season at any point. So if you're looking for a cheap way into a team, then I don't think he's terrible. Yeah. Lucas Bergville played well actually as well in that game when he came on.
Yeah, I think again it's another 7-7-5. I mean, there's like Bowen, there's Maddison, there's Gordon, who we haven't mentioned as well.
Yeah.
All of 7-5. These are all good options
Yeah.
around that mid thing. It's just if we are looking to take money out, that feels like where the downgrades are going to be, because the 6-5 mids are good as well. So yeah, it might be the sacrifice
that might be where you get your João Pedro to Muniz money from.
Exactly. I think it might be. Yeah, it might be Maddison to Johnson or something like that. Yeah. Very good. Tom's in the chat. He says, like the stream, people, help us out. Yep. If you're watching and enjoying the Q&A, do give us a like. Do obviously subscribe to Scout. Check over the site out as well. Sign up, become a member. Got a question, Sam? When's the app coming? When is the app coming?
So soon. So this afternoon I am going to get it on my phone. It's going to appear on my phone this afternoon so I can do some checks and stuff on it, and then very soon, like imminent.
It's exciting.
It's been so long. How long have I wanted to do this for? Like, how long have I banged on about it?
We were pushing for it when I worked for Scout. Obviously, I'm no longer there in a kind of full-time capacity. But yeah, I'm glad it's coming. It's
Reece
much
and I,
needed.
we've spent 6 months now developing it and getting it ready to go. So yeah, next week I will hope to be able to go, here you go everyone.
Oh,
here you go.
What a way to end the stream on the good news about the app. Thank you everyone for tuning in. It's great to be back doing these. We'll be doing these every week now, won't we? Until the season starts.
You can't get rid of me now.
Might have to change it a bit for the final game, because obviously it's Fest, isn't it? So we might have to do one a bit earlier.
Well, we're going to move though, aren't we? Our standard slot is going to move. We're going to be Thursdays.
Yeah, we're moving to Thursdays.
We're only here because you're hungover.
Completely forgot. I'm so hungover. Work summer party yesterday. I had free bar. Yes, I shouldn't be around a free bar. Just not. I'm not 21 anymore. You know.
You're younger than me though, Az.
And it's so hot today as well. I'm literally melting all the booze out, which is probably for the best. Anyway, we'll call it there. Sam, great to be back. Thank you everyone. It's great to see so many of you already thinking about FPL and getting your questions in. Sam and I will be back on Thursday next week to talk through some more questions. But do check out Fantasy Scout, and as I said, give us a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Goodbye.
Bye, guys.